What's up, guys? I wanted to get this quick add-ons video out here. It's not going to be super short, but I say quick because I'm recording this really quick. This is just going to be pretty much a raw, uncut explanation of my add-ons. So for those of you who don't know, add-ons are separated into three tiers of effect. Tier 1 has the smallest effect, Tier 2 has a middle effect, and Tier 3 has the highest effect. Big shout out to the Striker Discord, as usual, for providing this type of content. I took this image straight from the Striker Discord. You can find their info in the description below. So this is essentially a chart that is showing all the skills and the add-ons that you could add to them and their effects. The Striker is kind of interesting in the way the add-ons are set up because pretty much every single skill is going to be in the Tier 2 bracket. Pretty much. I would say that maybe Crosswind and Wolfang would be worth getting. Wolfang definitely worth getting for PvE, but for PvP, maybe getting Crosswind in there, maybe, if you really want to get the Tier 3 add-on effect, but my personal opinion is not necessary. Now, we're going to be going over a detailed explanation on the add-ons that I have. However, I'm going to be talking in terms of PvP. Now, I know a lot of you guys want to know the PvE add-ons I run. Personally, the only difference between my PvE add-ons and my PvP add-ons is that I will swap out Crimson Fang for Wolf's Fang. Maybe not even always Crimson Fang, but pretty much Crimson Fang for Wolf Fang. And Wolf Fang, because I play Awakening, the absolute version of Wolf Fang is on a low cooldown. It's on an 8-second cooldown, and having the attack monster buff Tier 3, so plus 30 on Wolf Fang, you could almost have 100% uptime on it if you really tried to. I feel like that's just pretty good for PvE. So for me personally, that's good enough. I like to still prioritize PvP add-ons because even when I PvE, I PvP, and I don't like to deviate too much away from my PvP setup. And I also personally believe my PvP setup is just fine for PvE as well, especially if we get Wolf Fang in there. The reason why I replace Crimson Fang is because, again, I like to try and keep it consistent with my PvP rotation. In my personal opinion, the add-ons that I have on Crimson Fang are the two add-ons, the two add-on effects that I feel like I can afford to lose if I had to replace it with PvE add-ons. Sorry. So, and a quick explanation on that, and I'm going to kind of go into it more in detail in the PvP section here. But Crimson Fang is pretty much when you just want to add more damage. The only time you're going to be using Crimson Fang in PvP is if you really want to min-max damage. And a lot of the times, especially when we're comboing a class, we don't actually need that extra damage. So for that reason, I find it replaceable with Wolf Fang with the monster attack damage. PvP add-ons, these are the add-ons that I like to personally run. This is a little bit more adjusted to my personal playstyle with Striker. And to kind of explain the logic behind this, I want to mention a couple of things that you should understand about the Striker class. Number one, we are one of the slower melee classes in the game. Okay, so that's important to know. And number two is we are a combo-based class. We have some of the best combo burst damage in the game, but we're not the best at trading. Okay, so I just want to kind of mention that before I go into this. We are also an SA trading class. Although we are one of the tankier classes, we also have a higher uptime on the amount of damage we actually take because we don't have too many iframes. We have really good super armor rotation, although our super armor rotation does have holes, a lot of holes. We just take a lot of chip damage because most of our protection is through super armor. Now, I just want to quickly mention that this is going to be a raw, uncut, unedited video. Well, I will edit it a little bit to a certain degree, but this is going to be pretty much a raw video of me just explaining my add-ons. I don't feel like I need to go super fancy with an add-ons video. In fact, most of you guys are probably just looking at this and copy-pastaing it. But if you want a little bit more insight, I'm just going to kind of go over this. And let's start with the first skill, Rage Hammer. So this is a skill that we use to SA rotate, to SA rotate, to catch people with a bound. Although you're not going to catch too many people with a bound compared to some of our other CCs. But again, we are a class that takes a lot of chip damage, and this is a skill that you're going to use quite a bit, especially in group PvP, because you're obviously doing damage, and it can catch people. It can catch a group of people if you do it. If you do it with a lot of people around you, like right in the center of the fight. And you're also going to use it for SA rotating. Now, whether it's in 1v1s or a group fight, you're going to be most likely, there's going to be, not most likely, but a lot of the times you're going to be taking damage while you're in this rotation, or while you're using this skill rather. This is the skill that I like to have defensive add-ons for. I like to at least have one skill, especially a skill that I rotate SAs with, that gives me a defense, that gives me some defense here. Okay, so with that said, I want to mention that I am currently running all defense plus 15 and plus 4% evasion. Pretty self-explanatory here. Now, I do want to mention this is level 1 Rage Hammer. Okay, that is on a 12-second cooldown. If you have it absolute, which you should, it'll be on an 8-second cooldown. So to have an 8-second cooldown with all defense plus 15, all evasion plus 4%, you could pretty much have almost 100% uptime. Not really, because you're not going to be using this off cooldown, but you could pretty much have all defense plus 15 and plus 4% evasion up whenever you really want. So the next skill is actually going to be Crimson Fang, and this is a skill that you pretty much only use, not always again, but pretty much only use when you're really trying to min-max damage in a combo. And this skill is followed by Death Strike, which will give you the DP debuff. If I'm going to show you that real quick. This is the skill that you're always following it up with. As you can see, it gives you a 10-second all DP minus 20 debuff. It really allows you to hit pretty hard, okay? Not only that, you're also getting the down attack plus 3% and critical hit damage plus 3%. So it's just really maximizing the damage. These are the two add-ons that I have on this if I'm really trying to min-max damage, which is the only reason why you would actually use Crimson Fang. When you get enough AP, especially in ones, a lot of times you don't even need to go into Crimson Fang to one combo an opponent. But if we really want to min-max damage, we're going into Crimson Fang, and to further min-max that damage, we're adding down attack and critical hit damage to this. Next, we have Skull Crusher here. Now, this is on a 7-second cooldown when it's maxed out, okay? This is always followed by a Skull Hammer, which is on an 11-second cooldown. I should rephrase that. Skull Hammer, anytime you want to use Skull Hammer, it's always going to be following Skull Crusher. You're not always going to be using Skull Hammer after Skull Crusher. You're going to be using the Skull Hammer only when you are sure that you want that maximum damage burst. And majority of the time you're going to be using it in a combo, or when you're engaging on a group of targets that are unsuspecting in group PvP, or in group PvP when you're trying to really burn down or kill or execute an already low target. Those are pretty much the only scenarios that you're going to be using Skull Hammer. So Skull Crusher in itself is most of the time going to be used at the beginning of your combo. It will always be used in a combo, but it's pretty much going to be used either to engage, either to trade, or in a combo. All of which benefit from having a critical hit rate of 20% buff and a attack speed buff of 7%. Skull Crusher already gives you a 10% attack speed buff, as you can see here, and if you have Crouching Wolf up, which you should, the buff from Crouching Wolf, this along with the attack speed buff that you get from it, you're going to be very fast. So I mentioned earlier that strikers are one of the slower melee classes, and there's a big difference when you have speed. Like if you try using the E buff or the Q buff, can't remember what it was. It's been a while. When you use the striker buff that gives you attack speed, it really feels like you're performing at a different level with Striker. It's very helpful. So I like to really try and keep the attack speed buff up as long as I can, because it really helps. Also keep in mind, because we're one of the slower classes, it also hurts even more when we get a debuff on us. So that means like a witch or wizard that have that range debuff on you. If you don't have attack speed, if you don't have an attack speed buff up and they apply that on you, you're essentially out of the fight. Okay, so the attack speed from Crouching Wolf, Skull Crusher, and the add-on from it really, really helps. This allows us to just use, well, you should always have Crouching Wolf up, but if we can catch people with Skull Crusher, this should allow you to get that maximum attack speed uptime. It should allow you to get your attack speed buff up in one global, in one skill. So I really like using this. It also helps us get combos off faster. It allows us to do more damage in our combos, because Skull Crusher, the vast majority of the time, not always, but the vast majority of the time, a lot of the time, it's used at the beginning of our combo, whether it's a group PvP combo, meaning you're going in with Nimbus to Skull Crusher, to Echo to Rampaging Spiral, whatever that may be, or in ones where you get a grab and you go straight into Skull Crusher, whatever that may be. Because remember, our protected combo, so if you're even in small scale PvP, if you have a grab, our protected combo always starts with Skull Crusher. And having this attack speed buff and this critical hit rate buff that's going to be applied to every other skill that's following it really, really helps, especially with Skull Hammer being the follow-up to it, which is huge damage for us. Same with Skull Hammer, just more damage. All DP minus 15. So this on top of the Death Strike that you get from Crimson, should you choose to go into Crimson Death Strike and then Skull Hammer after, it just really gets a big DP debuff. I think that's like what, 35 minus 35 DP debuff on the target with PvP damage. So you're buffing yourself, you're applying debuffs. So at the start of a combo, if you do go grab into Crimson into Skull Hammer, you're essentially having down attack, critical hit damage, DP debuff minus 35 on the target, PvP damage on you, attack speed, and a critical hit rate that goes throughout the rest of your combo, and that's just really, really helpful. Next, we have Spiral Kanon. Now, this is a skill that, in my opinion, has been significantly buffed since having the core skill added to it. Now that it has super armor, this is a legitimate trade skill that we use. We use this to get around, and we also use this to trade. Now, again, I mentioned that speed, in my opinion, especially for ones, is very important. The attack speed buff that you get from Spiral Kanon will really, really help, because having the attack speed from both Skull Crusher and Spiral Kanon really helps us maintain 100% uptime on attack speed. And in my personal opinion, I think that's very important for strikers, especially when you play the quicker iframey classes, especially when those classes are being played by the better players. Speed is really, really important for strikers, in my personal opinion. And not only that, if you're catching them with Spiral, which you should be trying to catch them with Spiral, because Spiral Kanon, if you're close enough, ignores Frontal Guard. Applying an attack speed debuff also really helps. So this is more of like a duelist attack add-on that I like to run. Having the buffing our speed and debuffing the opponent's speed, it just really helps. And I found this to be very helpful. This is more of a personal style thing for me, but this is what I like to run with Spiral Kanon. Next, we have Rampaging Predator. Now, you could also use this with a stun if you choose to use that rather than the protection on Spiral Kanon. This is also a skill that has a low cooldown when you're at when you max the skill out. If we go in here, it should be 8 seconds. So I don't know why I keep going into that. 8-second cooldown on Rampaging Predator. So you use this a lot. You're gonna be using this skill in combos. excuse me, you're going to be using this skill in combos. You're going to be using this skill even in PvE. You can even use this skill to trade now, to catch up to targets. This is a very, very versatile skill. It's the only skill that we have that actually gives us 100% crit rate. Not the only skill, like mass destruction does too, but in my opinion, when it comes to like the core skills, quote unquote core skills, the big damaging skills that we have, in our awakening tree, this is pretty much it. Okay, so when it comes to crit rate, now I run critical hit rate here again because this allows us to keep critical hit rate up. We're not going to, especially in duels, you're not going to be trading a lot with Skull Crusher because the faster melee classes they're going to punish you using Skull Crusher if you're using it to trade. If you do it to trade a lot, they will just punish you. More the reason to run attack speed on Spiral Kanon, because Spiral Kanon with protection is a lot less punishable than Skull Crusher. You'll find this with the better players. Not so, but like less skilled players, you're not going to really get punished by Skull Crusher, but the good players, they will grab you out of this in a heartbeat. Okay, so you're not going to be able to trade with Skull Crusher that much. So that's also the reason why I run attack speed on Spiral Kanon, because I want to have attack speed up. So I want to also maintain critical hit rate. Now, you could probably swap these if you would really like to, but in my opinion, the critical hit rate and attack speed, that is, I like to keep a critical hit rate on Rampaging Predator, and I like to run a bleed add-on on Rampaging Predator because number one, Rampaging Predator already comes with a bleed. So you get a stacking dot when you have a bleeding add-on attached to Rampaging Predator, so you can get 2 dots out at once by using just one global. And using Rampaging Predator at like mid-range, you're always going to be getting this buff and this debuff on the target, right? Like it's not always, but like it's going to be a lot easier for you to apply this on the target. And because this has been sped up, you can actually use this to just apply a little bit more pressure. When I explained at the beginning of the video, we are a combo burst based class. Sorry, it's been a long day. So we are not the best traders, which means if you don't have the most AP and you don't have the ability to one combo someone, if your opponent effectively kites you until they get full HP, there's no way you're going to actually be able to kill someone 1v1 if you can't one combo them. Versus, let's say you're playing a ninja, even if you can't one combo them, you can always stay on top of them and apply pressure for you, and that would allow you to get multiple combos off, potentially chip away at their health, apply pressure, force a defensive playstyle on the opponent. All these dynamics are there. With Striker, not so much. We are not the best at that. That's why, in my personal opinion, the best style to really if you're really trying to min-max your performance on Striker, the best style for Striker is a defensive style Striker for ones, that is, but that's kind of like going off on a tangent there. But Rampaging Predator, okay, again, the reason why I run a double stacking bleed is because if you're not able to one combo with someone, or if you are applying a little bit of pressure through trade because you have a lot of AP or DP, these two dots will allow you to continue pressuring them because they pretty much take care of the pots that your opponent would be having, right? Because obviously every opponent will have a pot off cooldown that's constantly going off, and having this bleed on the target, this double stacking bleed on the target, will really help you keep their HP value low, and apply just a little bit more pressure, because we just don't apply pressure very well, especially to the better players and the faster classes, the most mobile classes. That's just the way it is. So if you guys have any questions, the best way to actually interact with me is through my Twitch chat. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm really good about answering questions, especially with Striker when it comes to Twitch chat. I might be a little bit slow on the other platforms, but Twitch chat I'm really good with. So I encourage you to join me there. You can find the link to my Twitch chat and my schedule in the description below. Other than that, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed and left me some feedback in the comment section below. Let me know what kind of videos that you'd like to see. I know I've been requesting that in the other videos. I have been listening. I've been working on it. I'm a little bit slower at editing compared to the other content creators, but I'm working on it. I'm reading your comments and your feedback and your suggestions and the type of content that you'd like to see, and I'm doing my best to try and fulfill that. So yeah, any additional comments, any additional suggestions would be greatly appreciated, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. All right, so I will catch you in the next one, and I hope to see you on my Twitch chat or in the comment section below.